counting down in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Mr. Tom Roberts, welcome to CamTalks.
Hello, very happy to be here.
Thank you so much for making time for me today, mate. I know this is an incredibly busy time in your life, so thank you ever so much. Tom, why don't we just quickly summarize what has kind of happened in I don't want to make it sound simple, but since coronavirus, your life has kind of changed somewhat. Is that fair to say?
Hello, Mr. Cameron Cairnduff. That would be that would be very fair to say. So for viewers or listeners that may not know, I'm a filmmaker by trade. That's how I sustain myself. And when lockdown hit, you know, in the before time, I was sustaining myself by making social media videos for corporations. So if you went on certain big companies' Instagram account, I would have made that video. And when coronavirus hit, all of that work dried up, and I didn't know how I was going to sustain myself. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I moved back into my dad's house, and with my little brother, I have a 7-year-old brother and sister.
So sweet.
And we started making short films, really, that were poems that I wrote, and we'd make short films about them that were responses to the world and how we felt and what was going on. And about a month ago, one of them kind of went a little bit viral. And how
not just a little bit viral, Tom. I've claimed that videos with 100,000 views is viral, but this is closer to what, 50 million plus?
Yeah, somewhere in that stratosphere.
And what was the what was it about that in particular video? Obviously, I've watched it quite a few times. Not trying to copy or anything, but just realizing that you really captured like the zeitgeist of what was going on at the time. So tell us about the sort of content of that particular poem, that spoken word that you gave.
Sure. Obviously, the most frequently asked question since recording and uploading that video has been, what was it about that video? You know, and my guess is as good as yours. From personally reflecting on it, I feel like all I was trying to do was articulate the way I felt. And I think because there was a shared problem, you know, that was actually a globally shared problem, I think the way that I felt was the way that a lot of people felt. And, you know, my way of articulating it was to create a short film and to include a poem. And I think that in the modern age we live in with social media, when someone says, you know, what you are feeling or how you feel, describes how you are feeling, or articulates something you want to articulate, and it's on social media and it's there and it's very shareable, I think that all that person has done is made it easy for you to express yourself, because you're like, yes, that's what I want to say. And so I don't, you know, I don't have any special knowledge of how to do a viral video. Like I honestly, I didn't set out to do a viral video. I set out to just articulate how I felt. And I think that, you know, if in the right moment, with the right thought, you know, and the right execution, you provide a clear articulation, then the rest is history.
Amazing. Well, I mean, here's the thing, man, because, you know, the great realization, I love that poem, Tom. Don't get me wrong, I do. But I do also prefer some of your older ones. And I don't know whether that's because I was just, you know, one of those fanboys where you're like, oh, I was there before he got big. But a few years ago, you know, you did have some kind of success with these spoken words, right? So this wasn't an overnight, like instantly Tom just became an incredible writer.
Well, you know. I maintain that I did nothing differently. That you know, that I did nothing different to what I've been doing for quite some time now. You know, for about 7 or 8 years, I've been writing these poems and performing them on the streets of Manchester or in little open mic nights in London or largely Manchester, because that's where I went to university. And yeah, I've been doing this for a long time, and I wouldn't say that there's anything in terms of the poem itself that's more advanced or anything from some of the other things I've done. I just think that the message and the idea was one that people wanted in that moment. And
absolutely.
I'm proud of, I'm pleased with many of the poems that I've written. I wouldn't have put them out otherwise,
Well, I mean, I have to say
I
though,
think with this one, it just it was a lot of the right. Sorry, yeah, it was right place, right time, right thing to say.
I don't know, because some of your previous poems, as much as the production values were on point, something tells me that you have access to a stock footage library now. Seems like you're really kind of upping the emotional feeling by showing them something that they could relate to. How does that make a difference?
Well, this was the fourth poem that I made and released since lockdown began. And just honestly, just as a filmmaker, I get curious, and I'm trying to improve my capabilities. So the first one that I produced and put out, when lockdown began, is incredibly rough, because I was learning how to film myself, which is something I hadn't done before, and how to light myself, and how to sound record myself, and then to edit it. And basically, in normal time, I would get, I'd get one of my incredibly talented DOP friends to film, and a sound recordist to do that, and maybe a gaffer to light it. And suddenly I found I can't go out and interact with those people. I have to do all of those things myself. So the first one is incredibly rough, and I put it out and I looked at it and I thought, right, as with anything, you think, okay, how can I be slicker on the next one? How can I make it a bit better? By the time I got to the fourth one, I'd gotten much more comfortable lighting myself, sound recording myself, filming myself. And so then you just start to play with other things. Then I thought, well, the cutaways, and a cutaway, for anyone who's not a filmmaker, is just whenever you maintain, the through line of whoever's speaking, but the camera goes and looks at something else. I thought the cutaways were always really useful to the poems, because they help the imagination. And the cutaways for the one before The Great Realization were all things I'd shot around my house.
Mm-hmm.
That was for Donald's report. And for this one, I really wanted to have some nice cutaways as well. But I thought, some of the themes I'm discussing in this poem, I can't film these
Find
things
it in your house.
It's not possible. So I spoke to some of my filmmaker friends, and I was just like, listen, I've never used stock footage before, ever, but I want to give it a go. Do you know any good any good places to start? And they recommended this particular stock footage library to me, and that's where I found all the cutaways.
Which library do you use? Is it
Storyblocks? Yeah.
Amazing. You see, yeah. I've got a funny feeling that Mr. Tom Roberts and Storyblocks are going to do a collaboration at some point. It seems like they always pick the top influence at the time. But look, loads of opportunities have come flooding your way since all of this. But before we kind of talk about that, what's it like to have something go like mega viral? Like, what was your phone like? Like, what were you feeling? Like, I imagine. I mean, please tell me what that feels like.
Well, one thing that is lots of people wanted to get in touch with me, my family and friends. Everyone was trying to speak to me at the same time, and it was really, really nice. And all of the things that they were saying was, were so lovely. It was also a bit, my phone was going a little bit berserk, so I would just turn it off for periods of the day, because that was, that was quite nice. And then I'd think, okay, now I'm gonna turn it on and speak to some people.
And it gets worse, even more notifications.
The main thing I found really, really incredible was, so requests to do interviews came very, very quickly. In normal time, I would never have been able to do as many interviews as I did. So in one day, I did This Morning with Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby, and then I did the Today Show in New York. Then I did the National, which is in the United Arab Emirates. Then I did the Today Show in India. Then I did the Project in New Zealand, and then I did the Morning Show in Australia. And I just thought I've been on almost every continent today, and I haven't left my bedroom. And that was very surreal. And I thought, in normal times, you couldn't go on the Today Show in New York via Zoom because they it wouldn't be professional enough. So that would involve getting on a plane, going to New York. It would be very exciting, staying in a hotel, getting up, doing the show, maybe having a party that night, staying in a hotel, flying back. That's 3 days for that interview, which, don't get me wrong, I'm human like everyone else. That sounds incredibly exciting to me. But if the objective is to spread the message and to tell more people about your work, then actually this was incredibly productive in that respect, very efficient. There was always a slight feeling of anticlimax when you feel like you've just been speaking on a national platform, and then you hang up, and then you're just in your bedroom, and you think, okay, all right, I sleep just there.
Oh mate, I can imagine, man. But that must have been so much fun though, because I'm guessing every opportunity that you went after created another opportunity. It seems like doors just open left, right, and center.
Well, I was I was, and I still am aware that that kind of attention is fleeting, and it's the kind of attention that people can quite easily work their whole lives towards. It's really quite rare. And so I felt like in that moment, and I still feel that way in this moment, the thing that I wanted to do, the thing that felt like the right thing to do, was to use that opportunity to the fullest of its potential. I wasn't gonna stay in bed drinking wine and for 3 days. I thought, right, okay, right, I've barely had a drink since that poem came out, because I've just thought, there's so many wonderful avenues to explore. I don't want to feel like the 5 minutes passed and I didn't be as useful as I could.
Make the most of it, I guess, right?
Make the most of it, exactly. So,
but it's interesting because a lot of YouTubers, or I mean, you're not a YouTuber, but you're an online influencer, and you get to move a lot quicker because it's you. You can make that decision today. I'm going to sit and have 12 interviews or something, and I think that's probably why it's so hard finding someone like yourself who can do all of it. And so whenever something like this pops up, you get a huge amount of people just wanting to know you, so I mean, like, literally have you, because in social media, people say like, oh, always respond to every comment. That's impossible for you, right?
Completely. So for the first 2 weeks, it's been about 6 weeks now since that poem came out. For the first 2 weeks, the social media pages were so intense and so populated, intense in a good way. I truly mean that in a good way. It was too many people trying to speak to me for me to be able to deal with it and rationalize it.
What were they asking you?
Well, I don't know. I just got out. I cut and run. I logged out of all social media, and I said to so in fact, before this poem got big, I have a manager called Alex who I trust very much, and he appointed a social media strategist or handler or something. So we had Alex and Jordan, and I just said, guys, you just take care of that. Tell me if there's anything I need to know, because also we couldn't just get out of social media and leave it, because that's where a lot of the requests for these wonderful opportunities were coming.
Not everyone's got your phone number.
Not everyone's got your phone number. So so I just decided to get out. And so for 2 weeks, I didn't even, my family would say to me, how many views are we on? And I'd say, I don't know. I don't know. And, I'd speak to my friends on my phone, and, I heard from I was speaking to a friend from uni, and they'd say, "Oh, Jennifer Aniston has just liked your poem," or Jake Gyllenhaal. Alex would say, "Jake Gyllenhaal has just sent you a message." I'd say, "Fab, yeah, that's incredible."
Mad.
And then they say, "What do you want to say back?" And then I'd just be on the phone to them and say this, and I'd just say something, and then, and I honestly,
Amazing.
I didn't even go in there, and only after about 2 weeks, I started to just log in once a day to just have a look at how things were looking, because I was just had a curiosity, and now I'm at a stage where it's calmed down enough that I can kind of be in there, and whenever we post a new poem, so we've been posting poems about once every 10 days since then. Whenever we post a new poem, it gets a bit hectic immediately after posting it, and then a couple of days later, it's quite calm again.
Chilled out again. Well, dude, it sounds like not just a great time for yourself, but of course your family, and more importantly, your brother and sister. I mean, please tell me that you've given them something out of their free labor.
Well, they are very much 7-year-olds in their approach. I
What did
told
they
them,
want? Were they
this is what I mean.
hard dealers?
Well, no, I said to them, I said, "Guys, you know the poem we filmed in your bedroom?" I said, "We over 60 million people have watched that now." And my little sister just went, "Oh, great, so I'm famous." And then she just started talking about something else.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Just like that. Oh, but
And I was
what a
just
lovely
like,
experience to share together.
yeah. The thing that they've been most excited about is recognition from their classmates. They don't really understand the number of people around the world that have seen them, but they understand that their classmates have seen them on the internet.
That's
That's
way
very
more
exciting.
important than the
Way
millions
more
of
important.
people out there.
Playground points.
What's it like at the moment then? Obviously, because I'm guessing they're not back to school yet. Like, so you've still got them for some time, in the future. So you better make sure you get all your best work done now, mate. They seem pretty important to the to the Tomfoolery production. Tom, where did the name Tomfoolery come from?
That started at university. I at uni, it was really the time when I started attacking this as a hobby, and testing the waters and finding out about it. And when I began, I've always thought I've got one of the most generic names. My name's Tom Roberts. It's not, it's not. Even Cameron Cairnduff is more standout than Tom Roberts. Tom Roberts, I think, is a very forgettable name. And also I've always been quite interested in these performers who create almost like a character that they can perform under, and the character is very similar to themselves. It's not completely different, but they, when they're doing their thing, they're that person, and then in their normal life they're the other person. And Tomfoolery is what I landed on. The obvious correlation is Tom and Tom. It's kind of got my first name in it, and then the Tomfoolery, because the approach that I always like to take is one that's quite light-hearted, and I'd much rather, if there was something I disagreed with, I'd much rather kind of be a bit satirical and poke fun at it a little bit, rather than getting angry and doing angry poetry, which is, a very valid style. I think Kate Tempest does the emotion of anger in her poems and frustration really, really well, and it just doesn't suit me as well. Obviously, I can do that, but it's not my natural. So what I liked about the word Tomfoolery is it kind of gives you an idea of what you're going to get before you get it. You're not going to get something too serious. I might be talking about something serious, but hopefully in a playful way. And then I went to get that on social media, and someone else's Tomfoolery. So manager Alex suggested that I put official at the end, Tomfoolery official. And I thought that sounded crazy, because I thought there's nothing official about me in the slightest. I thought I'm the least official. Like, I do find it funny when, you see Tomfoolery official and you think, is he?
This is the legitimate Tom.
Yeah. And so this is the one true. And I just thought, also, it just wasn't, it just had a chord of arrogance, which I just didn't like so much. And I thought maybe it's just my silly sense of humor, but I thought there was something more. I thought there was something softer and slightly more playful about saying it's probably tomfoolery, because in a world where everyone's saying this is who I am, I thought it would be quite nice to go, it's probably the right one.
I love it.
So,
But
so
dude,
probably tomfoolery was born.
this is something that you. I mean, I don't know how long we've known each other now, maybe 5 years or something. But like your sense of, and I don't really know. This is the problem talking to someone really good at words, Tom. Is I don't really know how to explain you. You're a bit of an anomaly, because you know we've done projects in the past, done a feature film together, done a music video together. Something that I've always found fascinating about you is that optimism. You know, even at the lowest points, you know, on a 30-day shoot,
ship over the mountain.
Yeah, when everything's going wrong, you pull people together, and you've just got such a wonderful way about you, and I think that's why I wanted to continue working with you, but particularly around your working with actors, and because you're so warm and open to people's suggestions, and I'm sure you've had bad suggestions that you've made them feel good for suggesting, and then in your head you're like, that was a bit weird, move on. I don't have that kind of, you know, I feel very candid with what I say, and as you know, like I just want to kind of move on quickly. But that's why the music video project that we collaborated on, you know, even though you're assistant director, really you were just director, because I said to you, go and tell those actors how to feel. And I remember thinking, what's he going to do? He's going to get them in a huddle or something. And no, you just put on a song, and that song just kind of said what the actors needed to do. And it was a really magical moment for me to just kind of stand back and realize that, you know, sometimes the best form of directing is to be a little bit less, you know, in their face, and allow them to kind of come to that realization. So, you know, is directing actors, you know, is this still part of your life? Do you still want to head down that direction now
Very
that you have
so.
personally been given the spotlight?
Very, very much so. I was on a call, so I've recently acquired some incredible agents called CAA is the company, and within CAA there's the people that look after me in different departments, right? And before all of this tomfoolery poetry kicked off, I'd written a film script, and that's something that I'm very keen on making. Brief disclaimer: it's the story of a poet, a spoken word poet who becomes an overnight sensation. So the irony of what's happened has not been lost on me. But I'd written this film called Blaggers, which is very literally about a poet and his manager mate who come to London and have overnight enormous success, and then the story is them dealing with that. And I was speaking to CAA the other day, and they, you know, there's a lot of it's looking like, you know, there will be a lot more opportunity for this film to get made now. It's looking a lot more likely that it will. I mean, as far as I was concerned, it was always going to get made, likely. But it's looking a lot more likely. But you know, it was being said to me, so you're going to act in it, and who should we get to direct it? And I said I'm going to direct it. I said, you know, we can get someone else to act. If me acting is a deal breaker, I can consider that. But I said I'm directing it, and they said, but you know, that's not what you're known for. You're known for these, you know, you're known for these poems. I said, well, you know, yes,
you didn't know me before this.
No, but I say yes, it's me in front of the camera, but I did direct those poems. You know, like, you know, I directed my own performance. I directed where the camera was, what the light source was. For the great realization, I had a baking tray with 12 candles underneath my head, and it was only lit by candlelight. And I was like, you know, those videos, like I thought of myself much more as a director than a performer. I only performed because there was no one else to perform. You know, that's the only reason I was in them.
Amazing. So do you see yourself going down that you know, that sort of Jim Cummings route, where, you know, you're writing scripts, you're performing them, you're putting together your own little team? Is that kind of what you'd like to do?
I don't mind. I'm very peaceful about it. You'll know this, Cam, as much as anyone else. Part of me feels very strongly that everything that has happened since I left formal education has been made up as I went along. And it's a strategy that I believe in so deeply that I don't see any reason to deviate from it. You know, like, in fact, since the day I graduated, I have not known what on earth I'm supposed to be doing, what I'm supposed to be aiming for, but I've tried to make decisions of what I would do in that moment that would feel right. So I couldn't honestly tell you, which route I plan on going down. I know that the things I'm most interested in are effectively storytelling, and whether that comes in the form of a 4-minute poem or a 2-hour feature film, it's just storytelling. And it's just the expression of ideas and feelings and emotions through the use of character and story. If as long as we're making these 4-minute poems, I'm probably going to be in them, right? Because that's kind of how we've set that train up, and that's how that's running. But if they're in the form of 2-hour feature films, I don't mind who stars in them, but in order for me to express in order for me to make the point I want to make, and to express the thought that I want to express, and the feeling that I want to translate to the audience, I can't have someone else direct it, not for any reason other than they know how to. Directing is really an expression.
It would be shit as well, man. You'd hate it. Like, you'd be like, oh, you know what, why don't you just do that?
No, but I think that there are so many wonderful directors, and I think that they should direct the stories that they want to direct. Like, I think that's I'm so more power to them. That's wonderful. But I want to direct the stories that I want to direct.
But this is it. It's not like you're not unaware of the director's role. In fact, I think with your production company, Odds On Productions, I've seen you on set so many times, just doing what needs to be done on set. It's like, I don't care what the name of the role is. I'll come in, I'll fill in the boots that need to be filled in.
I remember on Hilda, which is the last film we made, I spent a lot of time cooking for people, and I think I did on the film that you and I did as well. And I think it's when it comes to a project, whether it's a short film, a feature film, a music video, whatever it is, when you're on the ground, and you'll know this as well as I do, when you're on the ground, you just see things that need to be done. And if there's a person who's got a great expertise in that field, hopefully they will do that. If no one's around that has a great expertise and no one's doing it, just do it. Just do it. It doesn't matter if you're the producer. If people are hungry, they don't care what your job role is. Just they want something to eat. So you just got to
But it's interesting because I think independent filmmakers, like ourselves, who have kind of grown up in this digital transformation, we are having to learn these extra skills like social media. And I remember like banging it into your heads like ages ago, talking about creating social media around the films that you make and stuff like that. And it seems like you've not only just like decided to dip your toe in the water, like you understand this modern sort of online marketing world now quite some bit. So how do you think that's all going to play as a factor with Blaggers? Am I allowed to mention the film's name, or is it a working title?
No, I think I said it in Blaggers. It will be called Blaggers, yeah.
So how are you going to be using social media differently because of this experience, or not?
Truly, I don't know yet. Actually, I haven't given enough thought to. I think the likelihood that I won't use the gift that is a kind of audience of people who are who have already displayed an interest in my work. The idea that I wouldn't involve them in helping this film to exist just would be nonsensical. I think there is an amount of people who are interested in what I'm making and the stories that I'm telling, and so I'm definitely going to. They are definitely going to inform my strategy, and that's I think anyone would do that in this situation. Literally how I haven't thought about.
Well, you've already got us to participate. I believe I submitted.
It's nearly ready.
Please tell me that I got into your next poem, because when you said that you need our help, I didn't think you were talking about millions of people. I thought you were saying, Cam, I need your help to make this poem worthy. And all it is you basically asked everyone to recite the poem, send in the video, and now you're editing that up?
It will be ready. Well, I don't actually know when this podcast is going out. On the time of filming this podcast, we're 2 or 3 days away from the completed video.
Well, I better get this out tonight then, Tom.
So yeah, I think you're going to be really pleased with the result. I'm
Great.
incredibly pleased with the result. And, you know, we've had people from, honestly, over, I think, 40 countries, 40 people from over 40 countries, but not 40 people, hundreds of people. But when people submitted their poems, we asked them to put what country they were from, and oh man, honestly, there's a lot of the world, all around the world, in places I never thought, you know, would get involved in one of my...
But tell me, Tom, so now that you've got this global audience, does it change the way that you're writing at all? Obviously, knowing that right now with, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement and, you know, so many things that are like popping up, and it might not be the issues we care about, but they're issues that other people care about. Do you feel like you have to report on certain things, or?
My feeling is, so when I started the page, the Tomfoolery page, I was, because naturally I'm very interested in politics. I studied politics at school. I've always been quite interested in what's going on politically in my country. So when I started the page, I was kind of responding to you know, very current political issues that are, you know, interesting to the UK. Then when coronavirus hit, I started, you know, responding to that, which is more of a global issue. And then whilst doing that, the great realization happened, which has brought in an audience that are not just from the United Kingdom. So in a way, I am trying to stay away from subject matter that would only be relevant to people living in this country.
Interesting.
You know, in the way that I was getting asked very recently in the UK, Captain Tom Phillips was
Captain Tom Moore.
Captain Tom Moore. Captain Phillips is the it's the Tom Hanks movie. Captain Phillips. Captain Tom Moore was walking up and down his garden for the NHS and raised millions. And a lot of my family and friends were saying, "Oh, you should write a poem about Captain Tom Moore." And I think previously I probably would have, you know, I would have written something about that, but I felt I was in two minds about it, because I thought, well, you know, there's this audience that I'm, you know, are treating me with such kindness that I'm keen to provide messages that are useful to as many of them as possible. And I feel like if I write about a very UK centric issue, I'm kind of speaking about something that excludes all of those other people. It's like when you're in a group of friends and you bring up a topic that only one other friend knows about, and it's like, you can do that, but then what about all the other people there? So I'm trying to talk about things that I care about and things that I believe that are more humanistic, you know, that are more messages, you know, that apply to the human race rather than Great Britain, you know. And you know, for now that's what I'm thinking about. You know, that could change in the future. I'm definitely not, I'm not, my strategy is to not comment on anything that and not to make any comment that I don't personally believe in, right? Because I feel like I saw this incredible interview once with Tom York, who's the singer from Radiohead, and he just basically said, if I made music that I thought my audience wanted to hear, I would have become irrelevant a long time ago. He said, all I can do is make the music I want to make, and if, you know, if that brings new people in, that's great. If that, you know, if that, whatever happens after that, effectively is what he said. And I think that's completely true. I think if I write poems that I think you and someone in India and someone in America, if I'm trying to write a poem that they want, I think eventually, because there's so many different people in the world with so many tastes and so many different concerns, I think I'll fall into a spider's web of thinking, well, if I say that, it will please them, but it won't please them. If I if I offend, you know, scientists or religious people or left-wing people or right-wing people or people who are pro this issue or anti this issue, I think that that's just a minefield that I don't want to get into. So my strategy is I'm just going to
just do what comes
I'm,
naturally.
I'm only going to report on things that I believe. And if there's something that I'm being asked to report on, but I don't have a clear view on it, then, that's, I'm going to just respectfully allow someone else to.
I mean, dude, you're a true artist, man, really, in the sense, which is actually why, it's a very interesting time in history, because business and creative are colliding right now massively. And that, exactly what you're saying there, is not something business people like. They don't like just winging it, or like, magic. What do you mean magic? It's like, yeah, that feeling you get when something's good. It's like, I don't understand that feeling. So look, going on, because I'm very aware of your time, Tom. You are now the most busiest friend in my life. So I will ask you one more question, which
you.
Really, and damn it, I think you've made me change my mind. I do care about your audience. Actually, your audience are probably only listening to this, or more of your audience listening to this probably than my audience. So I'm going to do you all a massive favor. And I'm going to ask Tom, if there's someone else out there, who perhaps is from a different country, who doesn't have, as much privileges as we do here, what can they do to take the steps to become a good writer, to actually create videos themselves? What would be your advice?
That's a really good question. I've
It's
actually
a terrible question, Tom. I bet you've been asked that many times.
I have. When I look through the Tomfoolery inbox, I see this question a lot. How did you do it? How can I do it? And I feel strange responding to it, because my truthful response to that question is that I don't know how to make a viral video, and I don't know how to make a poem that is seen by that many people. All of that happens or doesn't happen. My dad once said to me, and I thought he was bang on with this. He said, if you're inactive, nothing will happen. If you're active, maybe something will happen. But that's all you can shoot for, is that maybe. The only definite is if you're inactive, and that's nothing will happen, or potentially actually, even worse than that. If you do nothing, things get hard. So all I can really say in response to that is, similarly to what we touched on in some of the earlier questions, I don't know how this has happened, and I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm as shocked as you are. I'm trying to enjoy this moment to the fullest. Tom. I'm trying to enjoy this moment to the fullest of its potential. I suppose the best advice I can give is, all I was doing again and again was trying to articulate a feeling in whatever format I had the most skills in. So, at one point I didn't know anything about filmmaking, but I knew a little bit about performance because I enjoyed performing. So I wasn't making films then. I was getting up and doing shows and reciting poems for people. Then I learned a bit about filmmaking, and then I brought that skill in, and I thought, right, well, I like performing and I like writing poems, and now I know a bit about filmmaking, so let's try filming them. And I think all you can do is, with whatever skills you have, because we all have skills, with whatever skills you have, try and articulate the way you're feeling, and the chances are someone else is feeling that way too. And if the container that you create, by the container I just mean the capsule, the way you encapsulate that feeling, if that reaches someone else who feels the same way, they'll be grateful, and they'll probably pass it on. And there's not really a science to it. It's the same. I mean,
it sounds like the same reason, right, mate? If you don't do anything, nothing's going to happen.
No. Be active, and the tragedy is that you can be active and, you know, maybe you can't force it to happen. You know, so you can be active, and maybe whatever your goalpost of success is, you know, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But all I can honestly say is that it's worth having a fighting chance, and you'll only have a fighting chance if you're just doing stuff, whatever your stuff is. Just do things and articulate yourself.
That's a fine answer to anyone listening to this right now. I'm sure they're like, thank you, Tom. I now need to go be active. So please finish this podcast so I can go and learn that sort of stuff. So before we go, just because I know that you've got a lot of projects in development, I know that we're working on something as well, but tell me what's next for Tomfoolery, or what can you tell us about to just kind of leave the audience wanting more?
Well, The Poet Says Be Hopeful will be released in less than a week from now. It's got, you know, contributors from all over the world. Also, a few.
Did I make it? Am I in?
There's a few.
Did I make it?
There's a few famous contributors as well. So it's worth sticking around to see that one come out.
You cut me, didn't you? You cut me. I know you did.
And
you're pretending you don't even listen to me. I know, I'm on the cutting room floor. I tried really hard, Tom.
And yeah, I'm just gonna keep being as useful as I can and see what happens.
You got it, man. You got it. Listen, you got so much support now. I mean, not just now, you know, I have to say before this, you know, you've got a really tight group of friends who, you know, have all kind of just been, I guess, just inspiring you to the point of you inspiring them. And I think that's why I've always loved working with you, mate, because you're a true inspiration. And, you know, I wasn't surprised when I saw this happening, because I've seen all the work that you put in. So I'm like, yeah, you think that was easy? Go and look at the last 5 years of his life, you know, cooking bloody food on set at ridiculous times and eating a very strange diet at times. I think that's something that you learn on independent filmmaking.
A lot of noodles.
A lot of noodles and muffins. For some reason, I believe Dylan may have gone a bit raggo on the muffins, but I don't know. Anyway, listen, dude, thank you so much for your time. And yeah, I guess people already know where to find you, right? But you may as well tell them again.
On YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, probably Tomfoolery. On Twitter, probs Tomfoolery, because probably Tomfoolery is too long for Twitter, apparently. I understand it would be lovely to have consistency across all of them, but there's a character count.
Hey, look, dude, thank you so much for talking to me. We'll have to get this edited nice and quickly so that your wonderful audience can come and say hello to Cam in his wonderful world. Yeah, cool, man. Thank you ever so much for talking.
My pleasure.